A Florida federal judge has denied a request from the Trump administration to release grand jury transcripts from the investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. The decision was made due to legal constraints, with U.S. District Judge Robin Rosenberg stating that she could not release the grand jury material. The Trump administration had requested the unsealing of transcripts from the Florida grand jury proceedings into Epstein, amid calls for transparency into the sex trafficking investigations. This ruling is part of a series of attempts by President Donald Trump to release more information on the case. Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funke shared victim impact statements at Brian Kohberger's sentencing hearing on Wednesday. Mortensen described Kohberger as a hollow vessel who chose destruction, while Funke said she still speaks to the victims in her prayers every night. The surviving roommates expressed sadness and said speaking out is justice. Kohberger pleaded guilty to 4 counts of first-degree murder and burglary in exchange for waiving his right to appeal and avoiding a death sentence. Uber has launched a new feature called Women Preferences that allows female riders to choose to match with other women drivers. The pilot program will be available in 3 markets: Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Detroit. Riders can request on-demand trips with women drivers or reserve in advance using the reserve function. Women drivers can also opt in to receive trip requests from fellow female riders. This feature is part of Uber's efforts to increase safety and comfort for its female users. William McNeil Jr., the 22-year-old Florida man whose violent arrest by Jacksonville sheriff's deputies was caught on video, addressed the incident publicly for the first time Wednesday morning. The incident occurred on July 23, 2025, and sparked widespread outrage and calls for accountability. A ferry caught fire on July 23, 2025, resulting in the deaths of at least 3 people and 2 missing. The incident occurred during a voyage, with over 575 passengers rescued. The cause of the fire is currently under investigation. The U.S. government has launched a crackdown on illicit vaping products that appeal to minors, with the FDA commissioner stating that the country is going to stop port shopping of vape products. The move comes as concerns grow over the increasing popularity of these products among young people. ABC News' Lindsay Davis took a closer look at the new generation of vaping products, some of which are unrecognizable as e-cigarettes. Hoka is offering up to 36% off on some of their most sought-after running gear during their summer sale. The sale includes discounts on cushioned trail running shoes, high-performance clothing for both men and women, and even comfortable kids' shoes. Some popular items include the Hoka Mach 6, Mafate Speed 4, and Skyflow jacket. Additionally, some shoes are eligible for an extra 20% off the discounted price. The sale is available now on the Hoka website. Republicans on the House Oversight Committee are investigating Hunter Biden's implication that an Ambien sleeping pill was responsible for his father's consequential debate performance 1 year ago. The revelation comes as part of a larger investigation into the alleged cover-up of President Joe Biden's cognitive decline and his administration's potentially unauthorized autopen use for pardons and executive actions. A man who entered the U.S. illegally during the Biden administration after being deported 3 times before was convicted. Santo Beato Ibar, 49, a Dominican national, was arrested by ICE Boston and pleaded guilty in federal court. He could face up to 20 years in prison, a $250,000 fine, and 3 years of supervised release when he is sentenced on September 11th. Even after serving his sentence, he will be deported once again. Researchers at UC Berkeley have transformed the coffee ring effect into a powerful new at-home diagnostic test that can identify diseases like COVID-19, prostate cancer, and sepsis with remarkable accuracy. The test uses nanotechnology to capture and concentrate disease markers, making detection much easier. Results are ready in just 12 minutes, depending on the test. This innovation brings hospital-level disease detection right to your home, allowing for faster and easier health checks. New York City Mayor Eric Adams praised the Trump administration's efforts to secure the southern border, crediting those efforts for NYC's declining number of asylum seekers. Adams noted that the city has seen a stark drop in asylum seekers entering the city, with less than 100 migrant asylum seekers coming into the city per week. He attributed this decline to the securing of the border under the Trump administration. The NYC mayor also criticized the Biden administration's immigration policy, stating that it was hurting the city and contributing to his federal indictment on bribery and fraud charges. A 12-year-old baseball player from New Jersey has been suspended for flipping his bat after hitting a home run in a state tournament game. Marco Rocco, who plays for Haddonfield Little League, was ejected and suspended due to a safety concern after celebrating with a bat flip. His father claims that Little League International promotes bat flipping on social media and TV broadcasts. A temporary restraining order has been filed to allow Rocco to play in the state tournament. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard alleged that the Obama administration promoted a contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election, which she claims was intended to delegitimize President Trump, even before he was inaugurated. The declassified documents have been shared with the Department of Justice and the FBI for evaluation of potential criminal implications. Tammy Nobles, an angel mom whose daughter was murdered by an illegal immigrant, clashed with California Senator Alex Padilla during a Senate Judiciary Subcommittee hearing on Tuesday. Nobles pushed back against Padilla's question about whether those present believed all immigrants are criminals, saying, "You can't say all migrants. You can't put them all in the same category." The exchange came as Nobles and other angel moms testified about the need for stricter immigration policies to prevent similar tragedies from occurring. Nobles is now advocating for the passage of the Kayla Hamilton Act, which aims to tighten loopholes regarding unaccompanied minor children. The hearing also featured testimony from Alejandro Barranco, a U.S. Marine veteran whose father was detained by ICE agents without a warrant. A federal judge in Maryland issued an emergency ruling Wednesday, blocking the Trump administration from immediately taking Salvadorian migrant Kilmar Abrego Garcia into ICE custody for 72 hours after he is released from criminal custody in Nashville, Tennessee, attempting to slow, if only temporarily, a case at the center of a legal and political maelstrom. U.S. District Judge Paula Zenas said in her order that the government must refrain from immediately taking Abrego into ICE custody pending release from criminal custody, citing concerns about what legal status he would have in the third country of removal. Pittsburgh Steelers defensive tackle Cameron Heyward entered year 15 when training camp started for the team ahead of the 2025 season, and he's still performing at a high level. He expressed it as much in a social media post on Wednesday, saying goodbye to his family for a few weeks appears to be getting tougher for the 36-year-old. Heyward has been with the Steelers for his entire career and is unlikely to play anywhere else as it winds down. Michigan Senator Elissa Slotkin claims that Democrats are too concerned with making people angry on the internet, which she believes constrains them from taking action. In an interview on PBS's Firing Line with Margaret Hoover, Slotkin stated that some of her colleagues refuse to support issues because they fear backlash on social media platforms like Twitter. She emphasized the need for Democrats to be more assertive and less worried about offending others, especially in light of President Barack Obama's recent comments urging them to toughen up. House Speaker Mike Johnson accused Democrats of orchestrating a cover-up of President Joe Biden's signs of mental decline. In a set of remarks to reporters on Wednesday, the leader of the House of Representatives criticized left-wing lawmakers for their public pressure campaign regarding Jeffrey Epstein's case, dismissing their calls for transparency as a hypocritical political ploy. The Chicago Public Schools District has agreed to pay back over $1 million after an investigation found that they had been counting South Asian students as Native Americans to receive additional federal funding. the Department of Education's Office of Inspector General discovered that the school district had submitted false information about their student population, resulting in hundreds of thousands of dollars in misallocated funds. The repayment is not considered a fine, but rather an agreement between the school district and the ED. Chicago Public Schools officials have stated that they will not apply for the American Indian Education Grant for fiscal year 2026 to proceed with caution and ensure full compliance in the future. At 95, American movie star and film director Clint Eastwood is still going strong, thanks in part to his daily practice of Transcendental meditation, TM. Celebrity biographer Sean Levy notes that Eastwood has been a lifelong gym rat and fitness freak, who also favors an organic, low-fat diet. He has practiced TM since the mid-1970s, even while working on film sets. The meditative technique provides deep rest for the mind and body, dissolving stress in the nervous system and improving brain function. Potential health benefits of TM include reduced stress, anxiety, and depression, as well as lower blood pressure and better sleep. Sean O'Brien, the president of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, testified before a Senate Commerce Subcommittee on Surface Transportation that his union supports President Trump's tariff regime. O'Brien acknowledged public concern over job loss, but argued that corporate America should shoulder some of the negative fallout from the tariffs. He also expressed concerns about foreign nationals being allowed to take commercial driver's license (CDL) jobs without proper English proficiency standards, which Trump formally decreed in April. The Teamsters represent UPS workers as one of their largest workforces and have been concerned over this issue. Boston Red Sox pitcher Lucas Giolito has raised concerns about the safety of MLB players amid a rise in sports betting, revealing that both he and his girlfriend have been harassed on social media. Giolito spoke about the issue after meeting with MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred this week, citing threats to their family and life as a result of losing bets. He noted that even staying off social media does not remove the real threat athletes could face. The 2019 All-Star said he's been subjected to angry threats on social media, regardless of his performance, and that his girlfriend gets a lot of nasty shit. Giolito isn't the first athlete to raise concerns about sports betting. Just last month, police in Texas identified a man overseas as the culprit who allegedly made death threats directed at Houston Astros pitcher Lance McCullers Jr. and his family. The State Department has opened an investigation into Harvard University's use of international visas, citing national security interests. The probe will determine the university's continued eligibility as a sponsor for the exchange visitor program. Harvard has been at odds with the Trump administration over its handling of international students and research grants. Music legend Billy Joel surprised a New York City pedicab driver who was playing his iconic song, New York State of Mind, on the street. The singer stopped to say hello and even took a photo with the driver, who had no idea it was Joel at first. This encounter comes after Joel revealed he had been diagnosed with a brain disorder in May, but he assured fans that he is doing fine and just wants them to know not to worry about him. House Energy and Commerce Chairman Representative Brett Guthrie, R. Kellick, shared his personal experience with the nation's organ transplant system during a hearing on Tuesday. Guthrie's mother died waiting for a liver transplant, and he recounted how she was told they had found her a new liver, but it wasn't in good enough shape to be transplanted. The congressman said that despite the alarming evidence uncovered by HRSA's investigation, he still intends to keep his donor status, adding, "We need more people to donate." Currently, around 100,000 people are waiting for an organ transplant. Guthrie emphasized the importance of maintaining confidence in the system and ensuring families have faith in it, so they will not be afraid to donate much-needed organs. 8 children were hospitalized in Massachusetts after suddenly falling ill with seizure-like symptoms at a church outside Boston, officials said. The incident unfolded last night at St. Paul's Parish in Cambridge as it was hosting a concert by a traveling French youth choir. The cause of the illnesses is unclear. The Washington Post has announced significant changes to its social media-focused WP Ventures division, separating it from the newsroom. The move comes as the industry shifts and the Post faces an unprecedented exodus of top talent and low morale. WP Ventures General Manager Samantha Hennig will oversee the new direction, focusing on building personality-driven content and franchises around personalities in topic areas that interest the target audience. Florida Attorney General James Uthmire issued a subpoena to Vero Beach Vice Mayor Linda Moore in connection with a state probe into the Pride Tea Dance event held at her Kilted Mermaid Bar. The investigation is focused on whether children were exposed to sexualized performances during the event, which was advertised as all ages welcome. Uthmire stated that Florida law protects children from sexualization and that there is evidence of adult performers wearing revealing attire while interacting with minors. Moore has declined to comment, but said in a previous interview that the event is family-friendly and that parents are warned about the drag show's content. A judge has sentenced Bryan Kohberger to life in prison for the murders of 4 University of Idaho students in 2022. The sentencing comes after emotional impact statements from surviving roommates and victims' families, detailing how the brutal killings have changed their lives. The case drew widespread attention and outrage, with many calling for justice for the victims and their loved ones. The sister of Kaylee Goncalves addressed Bryan Kohberger in court, calling him pathetic, as he faced sentencing for the 2022 murders of 4 University of Idaho students. Kohberger pleaded guilty to stabbing men during a home invasion. U.S. President Donald Trump has announced a new trade deal with Japan, setting a 15% import tax on goods from the country. The agreement also involves Japan making over $500 billion in investments in the United States. NBC's Garrett Haake reports for Today from the White House. A 6-week-old baby boy named Yusuf al-Safadi died from malnutrition in Gaza City's Al-Shifa hospital. His family said they couldn't afford formula or supplements, and aid groups warned of a hunger crisis affecting children and pregnant women. Over 1,000 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli forces while seeking food since the start of a new aid distribution system in late May. Doctors and aid workers are struggling to provide basic necessities due to Israel's blockade and limited aid entering the enclave. The Trump administration has shifted its social media strategy during President Donald Trump's second term, focusing on memes and MAGA messaging. The White House has shared posts that showcase aggression toward immigrants and Democrats, including AI-generated images of Trump as the Pope or Superman. Critics argue this approach is trolling for the sake of trolling and undermines norms of official statements. Despite concerns, the administration points to growth in followays across platforms since Inauguration Day. COVID cases are increasing across the U.S., with rates of positive tests rising in over half of the country. The current dominant variant, NB1.8.1, accounts for 43% of new cases and has been linked to painful sore throats. While experts say population immunity may shield much of the public, those at high risk of severe illness are advised to consider getting a COVID shot. Updated vaccines targeting the LP.8.1 strain will be available in the fall, but only for adults 65 and up and kids adults with medical conditions. Healthy individuals may need to find older versions or pay out of pocket. Heavy metal icon Ozzy Osbourne has died at the age of 76. The Black Sabbath singer was known as the Prince of Darkness and had a long career in music, including reality TV appearances. He passed away on July 23, 2025, with tributes pouring in from fans and fellow musicians. The White House held a press briefing on July 23, 2025, led by Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt. The briefing was live-streamed and covered various topics, including the recent sentencing of Bryan Kohberger to life in prison for the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. The White House expressed condolences to the victims' families and acknowledged the nation's grief. The press briefing also touched on other issues, such as the ongoing investigations into the case and the impact on the community. Beef prices are expected to remain high even after the summer cookout season ends due to ongoing supply issues. The U.S. cattle herd has been shrinking over the last few decades, and climate issues have exacerbated the shortage. Import restrictions, including a threatened 50% tariff on Brazilian imports, will further limit the cattle supply. As a result, beef prices are averaging $6.12 per pound for ground beef and $11.49 per pound for steak, up 11.84% and 8.05% from last year, respectively. Nationally, extreme heat causes more deaths each year than any other weather event, including floods, hurricanes, and tornadoes. The Northern Hemisphere is approaching the midway point of summer, with preliminary numbers showing that heat has been a significant killer yet again this year. Heat-related illnesses often go unnoticed until it's too late, making it a silent killer. Climate change is increasing the frequency, intensity, and duration of heat waves around the world, putting more people at risk. This week, over 96 million people are under heat alerts in the South, Midwest, and Northeast. Skydance, the entertainment company set to take over Paramount in an $8 billion merger, has pledged to eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion programs at the media conglomerate. The company also committed to hiring an ombudsman who will review complaints of bias at CBS News for at least 2 years. These commitments were made in a pair of filings to the Federal Communications Commission, which regulates the media and telecommunications industry. Michigan Rep. Bill Huizenga has decided not to run for the U.S. Senate seat in 2026, potentially clearing the Republican primary field for former Rep. Mike Rogers. The decision comes after a conversation with President Trump and follows a close loss by Rogers in last year's Senate race. Democrats have a crowded primary on their side of the aisle, with several candidates vying for the nomination. Democratic Rep. Greg Casar is introducing legislation to ban surveillance pricing, where companies use personal data to charge consumers different prices for the same products. The practice, which involves using location data, browsing history, and demographic background to individualize prices, has caught the attention of Casar, who believes it could stack the deck against consumers, leading to higher, uneven prices. The Stop AI Price Gouging and Wage Fixing Act of 2025 would prohibit the use of surveillance-based price and wage setting, as well as prevent the use of artificial intelligence to set wages based on personal data. Casar's bill comes after a study by the Federal Trade Commission found that companies are frequently using consumer data when pricing products, and several states have attempted to take on the issue. The rare pre-Fleetwood Mac album by Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham is being reissued for the first time in over 5 decades. The album, recorded at Sound City Studios in Los Angeles, features 10 tracks, including hits Crystal and Don't Let Me Down Again. A special version includes 2 replica 7-inch singles. The Rhino High Fidelity Edition will be released on September 19th, with liner notes and quotes from the stars. Dr. Salvador Plasencia pleaded guilty to charges related to Matthew Perry's accidental overdose in 2023. He faces up to 40 years in prison and a $2 million fine for distributing ketamine to the actor, who was seeking the drug illegally outside of his treatment. Plasencia will remain out on bond until his December 3rd sentencing hearing. President Donald Trump has announced a suite of new bilateral trade agreements with Indonesia, the Philippines, and Japan. The deals impose tariffs ranging from 15% to 19% on imported products, but details on enforcement and guarantees are scarce. U.S. firms have expressed concerns about the impact of these tariffs on their bottom lines, prolonging uncertainty in the U.S. economy. Analysts warn that the agreements may not improve matters, with some predicting higher import duties after August 1st. Rep. Mike Lawler, RNY, has decided not to run for governor in New York. clearing the way for Rep. Elise Stefanik or another Republican to potentially challenge Democratic Governor Kathy Hochul in 2026. Lawler's decision comes after President Donald Trump urged him to focus on re-election instead of a gubernatorial bid. With his seat considered crucial to maintaining the House Republican majority, Lawler will run for re-election, giving Republicans a battle-tested incumbent in one of the most competitive House races in the country.